What was the explanation for the fair catch or non-fair catch in the Alabama game? Any reason for concern about the lack of second half adjustments for Tennessee? Those questions, a whole lot more. We're going to look back at the Alabama game, but answer your questions. A Twitter Tuesday mailbag edition of the show happening right now.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols. It is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks, prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use the promo code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's Daly's Fantasy Sports made easy. I'm your host, Eric Cain. You can find me on Twitter, as always, at _Cainer. I guess we really do need to start transitioning it to X, because that is what the rebranded name is. You can find me on X at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. Couldn't do this show without you guys. Shout out to every damn dayers, as always. Appreciate you guys. All right, if you're new to the show, give that subscribe button on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Best of Josh Heupel, Monday press conference. What did he say? Plus, so many of your questions, your comments, and your concerns. We'll do that in segments 2 and 3. But first, what did Josh Heupel have to say in his Monday press conference? Well, for starters, I do want to kind of play the clip whenever he was asked to elaborate on the fair catch or lack thereof. Of course, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, just inside the second half, Alabama goes and scores on 2 plays. They go to kick the ensuing kick for Tennessee to take over on offense, and Tennessee returns it to like the 23 or whatever, but has to start at the 4 because there was a whistle and a flag that somebody called a fair catch, and there was a lot of confusion. So any clarification? What did Josh Heupel have to say about that on Monday?
Yeah, letter of the law, anybody puts their hand up above the shoulder, that would signify a fair catch. We had a frontline guy that put his pointer finger up slightly above his shoulder.
Is he coached to do that, just to say that?
No, he's not coached to do that, no.
And during the game, they said 22, and I thought that couldn't have been right because that's Jeremiah Thielener. He's on the front line. But calling a retired official over the weekend, asked for some clarification who still spots and grades officials, and he said that according to the rule, yes, the rule book says that if there is a fair catch made, and even if that person is not the one catching the ball, and you return it, it's spotted right where you catch the football. So, and Josh Heupel saying letter of the law, if your hand goes above your head or whatever, and somebody went and screen grabbed it and shared it on social media. Thielener does do that. Now, is he calling for a fair catch? Absolutely not. He is not calling for a fair catch. And how in the world, if you're an official, do you see that? That's what I want to know. When you're trying to look and catch everything else, I don't quite understand that. But that's what Josh Heupel kind of said about that specific play. One of many plays or penalties or official rulings that did not go Tennessee's way. I'll get into more about this in segments 2 and 3. I'll talk more about officiating on a Monday afternoon than I care to. Fact of the matter is, officials were horrible in that game. Tennessee was flagged 8 times. It's not the end of the world. Alabama was flagged 1 time. Sure, it can affect the ebbs and flows of the game, but it's in my opinion that you get shut out in the second half. You don't go crying refs and saying that you lost only because of the refs. That's not what I'm about, and I'm not going to do that here on this show. But anyway, absolutely the refs were bad. They need to be held accountable. That's not going to happen. But the fair catch, it was a detriment point of this football game. Tennessee had to start at the 4, ran it 3 times, punted away. I mean, it was bad, and that was directly by the referees. But Tennessee technically, as Josh Heupel said, by letter of the law, committed the foul, and so. I wanted to get some clarification on that from Josh Heupel and play it here. A couple of bad quarters for Tennessee, and Josh Heupel was asked about that. Now, the quarters that have doomed Tennessee this season, 2 losses, 2 quarters. Second quarter against Florida, Tennessee was outscored 20-0. Tennessee was outgained 122 yards to 27. Tennessee was outpassed or passing yards. Florida had 72, Tennessee had 3. Florida had 8 first downs, Tennessee had 1 first down. Florida ran 21 plays, Tennessee ran 11 plays. That was in the second quarter against Florida where all heck broke loose. The third quarter against Alabama outscored Tennessee 17-0. Alabama outgained Tennessee 171 yards to 47. Passing yards through the air, 22 yards for Tennessee, 103 yards for Alabama. First down, 7 for Alabama, 1 for Tennessee. And total plays, that's not that big of a difference. 14 plays for Alabama, 12 plays for Tennessee. Fact of the matter is, one quarter has gotten you beat in both of your losses. And, you know, Josh Heupel was asked about that on Monday, and he said, well, you got to find a way around it, but welcome to the SEC.
Man, welcome to college football, right? You got to be on the right side of it. You got to find a way to make the plays that make the difference, and also understand that this game's not going to be perfect. We see really good players and coaches on the other side of it too. You know, I talked about earlier just, you know, that I like this team because they invest, they prepare, they play hard. We got to be a little bit sharper. And, you know, in the first ball game, I didn't think we reset. In this one, just, you know, some unique things happened, and we didn't get going on the right side of it. But we got to cut it clean, and we got to move forward in this one too.
Man, I was really close. I said, welcome to the SEC. He said, welcome to college football. Anyway, it's like quicksand. Anybody seen The Replacements? One of my favorite movies of all time. One thing bad happens, then another, and then it's like you can't breathe. You know, it's what it's felt like in some of those quarters, you know, when Tennessee's lost this year. And you got to find a way to snap and clear and move on, just like Tennessee's got to snap and clear and move on to Kentucky this week. A couple more I want to get into. Joe Milton played his best game, as I said yesterday, in my opinion, in a Tennessee uniform. You know, going back on the rewatch and everything, sure, he wasn't as sharp in the second half. He also wasn't as bad in the second half as a lot of people, even myself earlier in the week, kind of said. There was a lot of things why Tennessee was horrible in the second half, but you get this type of Joe Milton, you're going to win your more football games than you're going to lose. What did Josh Heupel think about Joe Milton, his performance at Alabama?
I thought he continued to compete, continued to fight throughout the course of the ball game. Really good decision making for a majority of the football game. Was accurate with the football. You know, I thought he made plays with his feet. Some of that was in quarterback run game, some design, some not. Some of it was him scrambling around, making some plays. So there were some positive signs.
Now looking towards Kentucky, and we'll break down this game, of course, from every angle as time goes on this week. But Ray Davis, the guy that you need to watch out for, running back, transfer from Vanderbilt. Second in the SEC with 781 yards, leading the SEC in total touchdowns, 13, 8 rushing, 5 receiving, averaging over 111 yards on the year, 7.0 yards per carry. He had 280 rushing yards against Florida a couple weeks ago. Stopping him is going to be of great importance. How much? Well, Josh Heupel was asked that on Monday.
Well, you got to stop them early at the line of scrimmage. But their offensive line, their tight ends, they're extremely physical. They do a really good job getting a hat on a hat. We got to be violent. We got to be disruptive. You got to have gap integrity between all their different personnel groupings, their shifts, their motions. We got to do a great job communicating and being, you know, gapped out. And at the end of the day, when you meet the ball carrier, you got to do a great job of tackling him too. He's extremely physical.
And then the last clip I want to play you guys is I ask him about the defense. It's a defense that so far this season, 27 points per game, 346 yards of total defense. You know, allowing some yards through the air, 251. Really good on the ground, 95 yards rushing allowed on average per game. It's got 16 sacks. It's created 11 turnovers. You know, how critical will it be, or how challenging will it be against this defense? And then specifically, and he'll mention this at the front of the clip, there's a cornerback for Kentucky named Maxwell Hairston. He's tied for the team lead with 44 tackles and 5 interceptions. 5 interceptions. What makes him go? What makes this defense for Kentucky go?
Yeah, a young corner that has been opportunistic, made plays when it's been up in the air. He's gone and got it, and does a really nice job as a young player. Their front, big, strong, physical. They do a really good job of getting off of blocks, but their second level and third level fits are on point. And so even if you block it clean inside, you know, the extra hat's showing up quickly on you. They've done a really good job of tackling that guy in space. We got to be extremely good up front. That's the 5 guys. It's the tight ends. And we're going to have to run with the physical edge in this one.
Yeah, and we'll continue to break down Tennessee and Kentucky, preview Tennessee and Kentucky all week long. But as I do every single Tuesday before we get into your mailbag questions, I do want to bring on some of the best from Josh Heupel from his Monday press conference. All right, when we come back, we'll get into those mailbag questions. But first, a shout out to LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you've got to try LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I say it all the time, but we have always posted we've all done this. Everybody watching us, most part, we've all posted our resume online for hopes of gaining a better job for our career and for our life. Maybe you've reached that point. You're a small business owner and you need help, someone you can trust, but also someone that's qualified. Where can you find those people? Well, post your job at LinkedIn.com/jobs, and simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and then ultimately hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 and delivering quality hires versus its leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job for free. It's at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. LinkedIn.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, guys and gals, welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. As we do every single Tuesday, it's when you guys, you everydayers, get to take over the show at _Cain or at Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Cain. You can send in your questions, comments, concerns, and we bring them on the show every Tuesday. So that being said, let's go ahead and start. Fake Post Malone says, do we see Nico versus UConn? You better freaking hope so. Of course, I said Nico should get a half against Austin Peay, and we saw what happened there. So 100%. Also, I said Nico should have played a half against UTSA. We saw what happened there. 100%. You better be seeing Nico play some in the second half when it's a blowout. 100%. Let's go to D. Siller. Do you have any concerns about Tennessee's coaches? The lack of halftime adjustments. It seems like the best coaching staffs make adjustments based on how their players are playing, the other team, and how the respective schemes are matching up. Tennessee seems not to, in my opinion. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, Alabama came out and made second half adjustments. Couldn't do anything through the air for the most part in the first half. Came out guns blazing and was moving the football, rapidly. Jalen Milroe had a really strong second half. So obviously there were some adjustments there. Even in the run game, I think they did more lateral, not necessarily zone concepts, but they were going, more to a zone type-ish run instead of just coming straight on and trying to go man on man, hat on a hat. So, and it feels like Tennessee didn't really adjust to that very well. So, I mean, there was that. Alabama's defense clamped down in the second half, made some halftime adjustments for sure. There was no separation for Tennessee's wide receivers. I mean, we can go on and on and on. But yes, coaches, make their money on making halftime adjustments. And, there's been a lot of games that Josh Heupel's won here at Tennessee where he's made really good second half adjustments. I do not think that was the case on Saturday. And, that's the easy black and white answer too. If you lose a game, well, team didn't make a second half adjustments, but I think it was pretty evident because it was two separate football teams, in Alabama on Saturdays. So that's just kind of my opinion. Let's go. And Adam kind of on that note, says I feel like Tennessee was greatly outcoached in the second half Saturday and the entire game at the Swamp. I feel like we were outcoached in some wins like Austin Peay. Our offensive game plan changed in the second half for apparently no reason. Is Heupel ultimately responsible? Well, I mean, he's the head coach, right? I know there's going to be some questions about play calling as well. I'm not sure which one calls plays. I would assume that Heupel's calling the plays here. He's the head coach. This is his offense. You got a first-year coordinator, so I would assume that Heupel calls the plays. But, I mean, I can't say that with 100% certainty. But it is Josh Heupel. He is the head football coach. And so, ultimately, you're right. Yes, it does fall on him. In the Swamp, I thought defensively, Tim Banks was too married to his concept. He was too late to adjust when things were going horribly wrong in the second half. And I think that's one of the reasons that Tennessee defense had such a horrible day, or really a quarter like we were talking about down there in the Swamp. I thought Austin Peay's coaches coached really well. I'm with you there. Austin Peay's coaches, I thought, did a really, really good job at Neyland Stadium that day. Ultimately, again, like I was saying in the question before, Alabama made second half adjustments. Tennessee did not. Tennessee did not respond well to those adjustments, and you kind of saw what happened. Let's go to Aaron_Hurd. After seeing Milton play his best game of the season so far at Alabama, when will we admit that it's play calling that's hurting us more than anything? Again, these have kind of all run together. Joe went 16-22, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first half, yet we come out overly committed to the run game in the second. Is Joey Halsley the issue? Again, I don't know who calls plays on every single down and distance and all that. I think situation as well has something to do with it, like that fair catch thing that we were talking about earlier. I mean, you're at the 4-yard line. Tennessee ran the ball 3 times and punted away. That changed the entire drive sequence, right? instead of being 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, or 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, you're now 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. Tennessee didn't have a lot of success moving the football in the second half. You weren't getting that first down, and so I think that affects a lot of things. So I'm not ready to say that it's play calling that's hurting you more than anything. I think it's a contributing factor to a little bit of everything, but Joe Milton definitely played well. You want to see consistency, though, from that. Just because Joe Milton put up a big old stat line in one half doesn't mean he's arrived, and so again, I think that's important. As much as I'm hyping him up too after that, it was great to see. You need to find some consistency for sure. Let's go to Jared. Jared said, why haven't we tried a fake punt with Jackson Ross if he's so fast? I don't know if he's fast or not. I know he was a former, Aussie football player, so, professional Australian football player, so I know he's a good athlete, but I don't know how fast he is. He's punting it well, but there were more moments in that game where nobody was around to stop him with an open field ahead, yet he just... Let's see here. My computer just blinked. Yeah, he just went to punt. Would you be changing some of our drives if he could do this? Agree. I am surprised to this point we haven't seen anything with him. Now, maybe you're just waiting for that right moments. I do think that he's capable of doing that. And when you roll out on a rugby-style punt, you're right. I mean, if no one's around, you're opening the door to where you could just take it and run. We've seen it a couple of times in college football. So he's punting the ball so well right now. It's another reason why I was kind of head-scratching why you went for it on 4th down like you did in that football game when your punter is doing just incredible work. So, we'll see. But I'm surprised we haven't seen a fake yet, but I'm sure at some point with Jackson Ross as your punter, you will see a fake punt. Whether that's this year, next year, year after that, I believe it will happen. All right, let's go to the Vol Bros. Is this the first time in the history of college football that an up back pointing at the ball on kickoff is ruled a fair catch? Again, I mean, maybe. I don't know. It wasn't just an up back. I mean, it was literally a guy on the front line. It's a guy on the front line. I mean, there's screen grab. I saw it. I didn't see it in real time. Didn't see it on the replay. That's why I was so confused after the game and a little bit on Sunday. But, I mean, he is pointing. I mean, I can see it. Now, what is he pointing at? I guess the ball. He's obviously not calling a fair catch. Again, if you're an official, I don't know how you see that. Like, for as many things as you're looking for, like, why on earth I'm not a conspiracy theory here. I know a lot of people wish I was, but I'm not saying they were specifically looking for that. But, I mean, it's like, what are you doing? Like, how do you see that? Maybe they were tipped off. Maybe they were. I don't know. But, it's really, really weird. Really weird. So maybe might have happened before. It seems like there's officiating blunders all across the country this season. Let's see here. James and Eric Eric Cain's segment 2. Phil, both of these guys want to know about officiating. What measures is the SEC NCAA taking regarding to officiating? The integrity of the game is at stake. It scores the board, not just Tennessee. We need face guarding for PI and challenges for blatant penalties on scoring plays. I'm done if nothing changes. I encourage you not to be done. Football is beautiful. You only get 12 Saturdays guaranteed a year. I encourage you, no matter what, to not be done because football is gorgeous. What steps are being taken regarding officiating? Again, I've answered this a couple of times over the days. To the best of my knowledge, I mean, these coaches, they send in plays every single week. Plays they don't agree with, plays that they were flagged for they don't agree with, plays that there was not a penalty where there should have been a penalty. And they say, yo, we have an issue with this play, this play, this play. And then you grade those officials. And every officiating crew, every official gets graded, and so on and so forth. Now, there's never going to be accountability. No one's ever going to get up on the podium and say, yeah, we missed that one, we missed that one. I think there should. Coaches and players get held accountable from people like me. I think 100% you should have accountability and be held accountable. Referees are not, they're human. You're going to make mistakes. You're never going to call a perfect game. But there needs to be some accountability there. I 100% agree. So, guys, I wish I had a better answer for you. I really do. But in terms of what's going to change right now, nothing. Now, in terms of the fair catch thing, like maybe that's a point of emphasis this offseason where you say, all right, let's go back and talk about this. What can we do to where, I mean, obviously a guy on the front line is not going to call a fair catch. So let's use some common sense here. I don't know. If enough of these types of plays get turned in, maybe they look at the rules committee in the offseason to change something. But as far as the short term, as far as right now, I mean, nothing. No one's going to get up there and answer questions. We don't get to ask Greg Sankey questions. It just kind of is what it is, and it's unfortunate, but it's a part of the football game. It's been a part of the football game for a long, long time. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue to get into your questions, your comments, your concerns, all that and more. It's right here on Locked On Vols. We'll tell you about our friends Prize Picks. Prize Picks is awesome. It's the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. That's daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more or less than 2 of the 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Again, I'm having so much fun right now, winning up to 25 times my money back this football season. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less. They're going to give you a total. They're going to give you a projection. You just say, I think this player will do more than that, or I think this player will do less than that. And you can do that for 2 to 5 players that fill up your board, and you can win 25 times your money this football season by doing that. It's so much fun. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and sports as well. Stat types, it's all available at PrizePicks, making it the #1 daily fantasy sports out there. I encourage you today to go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use that promo code lockedoncollege for our first deposit match up to $100. One more time, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use the promo code lockedoncollege for a deposit match up to $100. That's at Prize Picks. Moving right along here on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for being here. Can't thank you enough for sending in these questions, making this show one of the best on the channel, one of the best in the network. It's all because of you guys here at Locked On Vols. Twitter to X Tuesday, making it what it is every dayers. All right, let's go back into it. Got a couple more here before we call it quits. Josh Ward Wednesday coming up tomorrow, plus Pro Football Focus stats that matter from the Tennessee-Alabama game. Jacob says, do you think the Georgia game is still the most difficult game left on the schedule, or could this Kentucky game or Missouri game on the road prove to be more difficult? Thanks for what you do. Thank you for listening. I see where you're coming with that because, of course, Georgia's at home, the other 2 on the road. I do not think Georgia is all worldly like it has been the past 2 seasons. As of right now, I still believe Georgia to be the best team in the conference, even without Brock Bowers. So to answer your question, I would say yes, because I think Georgia's from a talent perspective, stacks on stacks on stacks, recruiting classes, good football team. And I also see where you're coming from because the road woes. Tennessee is trying to avoid, gosh, I got it in my notes here. Anyway, since last November, Tennessee has just been really bad on the road. Again, we know Athens, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina. We know the Swamp this year, and of course we know Tuscaloosa. Only Tennessee has lost 4 of its last 5 true road games. The 1 win at Vanderbilt at the end of 2022 season. So, and Kentucky's not going to be a cakewalk. Missouri, looking like a good football team. Excited to see what Missouri looks like against Georgia this weekend. But long story short, again, to answer your question, I would say Georgia's still the toughest game remaining on the schedule because I still think Georgia is the best football team, despite Tennessee having some issues on the road for sure. Let's go to Alan here. Alan says, why? In all capital letters. God, that game hurt. No question, just pain. I feel you, brother. I get it. It's frustrating. I continue to go back to just the way Tennessee was controlling that game in the first half with a 2-score lead. It's just frustrating at the end of the day. It's frustrating the way you got outscored in the second half. Frustrating the way the officials, had the game. It's frustrating some of the coaches' decisions. Frustrating the lack of execution. It is just frustrating. So, Alan says, God, that game hurt. No question, just pain. Well, you're not alone, brother. You're not alone. Let's go to Big Shot Rob 44. Let's see here. He said last week, just listen to the Game Day pod. This is, I guess, from VolQuest. Just want to say Bama's offense ain't look good, but this about to be the best game of the year, right? It's the Tennessee way. Haha, they going to click today simply because it's us. Talking about the offense and the quarterback. And then he says, Kentucky prediction kind of came through, right? Man, that one's on hype, bro. Well, Josh Heupel definitely deserves some of the blame for sure. Let's go to JR. This is during the game. This game is pathetic. Did Heupel even make adjustments at halftime? Yeah, we were talking about that a moment ago. It surely didn't look like it. Let's go to Banks. Has anyone asked Josh why we never attack the middle of the field? Good question. I'll pull up some notes for this. I think I know it's because of Joe, but he seemed better in that in the Orange Bowl and in mop-up duties last year. I don't have the numbers on last year. Certainly, I remember 2 of his touchdown passes in the Orange Bowl were over the middle, one to Squirrel, one to Brew in the back of the end zone on slants. Then the other one was Dermel Keaton down the sideline. Mop-up duty, I can remember a couple of ones last year that he hit over the middle. Squirrel White, Missouri comes to mind. Ramel Keaton, a couple of those others come to mind. And against Alabama, just throwing the ball deep down the field was good. Of course, you had the Squirrel White catch that was really, really incredible. Now, over the field, I went and looked at his numbers for this year. So deep passes over the middle of the field. I know you didn't specify deep passes, but over the middle of the field, he is 4 of 19, 20 yards down the field, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Now 10 to 20 yards over the middle of the field, he is 6 of 17 for a touchdown. 74 yards. That's it. So in all, Joe Milton is 10 of 36 for about 210-ish yards over the middle of the field this season. It's not world-beating numbers, but he has attempted more passes over the middle on balls past the line of scrimmage. I mean, within 10 yards, he's 29 of 37 on passes over the middle. So they're more than you think. We just all think of outside shots, screens, and all that. But his throws over the middle, at least past the line of scrimmage, are more than those to the side. But the numbers are not that great. Again, 10 of 36 for passes over the middle beyond 10 yards. So that's just, again, it's not a number that's really working in Joe's favor so far this year. Good question, Banks. Let's go to Boggs. Boggs says, okay. As a former Joe Milton stan, I am backing off. Even though I thought he played well in the first half, his stats were great. He did throw to mostly wide open receivers, though. Great throw to Squirrel. Then misses a wide open Warren. The difference between Joe and Hendon is that Joe could not provide a second half spark that we needed. It's hard to even say I'm ready for Nico because I believe we still have a lot to play for, but we need some consistency and some big playability. Yeah, I mean, I agree with almost all that, man. I 100% agree. He was good on Saturday. He was great in the first half. His throw to Squirrel was great. I think the receivers did a great job of getting behind the defensive backs, creating some separation, something that was not there in the second half. Your point about Warren, yes. Man, in real time, I'm like, go catch that football. I knew it was high. And I watched the replay. I'm like, okay, yes, it was a high ball. It'd be good to see Warren find another level, like get up there and make that catch. But again, it was a high ball. He did a good job of getting open. Got to make the throw. You missed that one. But I thought he played really well on Saturday. And your point about Hendon, where Hendon can create a spark, you're 100% spot on in my opinion. To this point, we haven't seen that from Joe Milton. He can play great and everything, but like, you know, my point, like I think I said this on yesterday's show, like in the second half when nothing was going well, like you'd like a quarterback that can like spark something, and Joe Milton has not shown the ability to do that just yet. So I think a lot of what you said is spot on. There's a lot to play for. Tennessee can easily win 9 games, in my opinion, this year. Easily win 9 games. You know, Tennessee can win out. I mean, Tennessee's good enough to beat every team on the schedule, in my opinion. Just you can't take the second half off like you did on the road. You got to win on the road in order to do that, like you did on Saturday. All right, let's see here. All right, let's go to Trevor, and then we'll get a couple more, and we'll call it quits. Trevor says, for my question, which game is most important? Bouncing back this week versus Kentucky, winning on the road versus Missouri, upsetting number 1 Georgia. It feels like Kentucky, Missouri are must-wins to feel good about this season once it's over. I agree with that last part. To feel good about this season when it's over, yeah, go on the road and win against some competent teams that can beat you if you don't play well. Sure, you lost to Florida. That's disappointing. Sure, you gave one away in Alabama. That's disappointing. Georgia game, we'll see what happens. Go win on the road, for sure. Very coach speak of me, but it just is what it is. I mean, until Tennessee wins on the road, it's the next game, especially the next road game, and, well, those coincide, and that's at Kentucky this week. So, coach speak Cain here. It's Kentucky because it's the next game, but also because it's on the road, and you've got to prove that you can win on the road. But toughest opponent, the one that everybody's going to be juiced up for, of course, you know that is going to be Georgia at Neyland Stadium. A couple more left, and again, then we're going to call it quits. Let's go to my guy, Bruce. A little tired of hearing coaches say they have to be better. What does that mean? They never elaborate. They just say they have to be better. Sounds like a cop-out. I would really like to know what they want to be better at. Is it a game management? Is it play calling? Be aware that your offense doesn't make fourth downs conversions this year. I think it's a little bit of all the above, right? I mean, sure, coaches, a lot of the times, I think when they want to rip players to the media, of course, the good coaches don't do that. And they just say, I got to be better. I got to be better. Sometimes that is a cop-out. But I think for the list you just kind of laid out there, play calls got to be better. Fourth down decisions, at points in times, especially, on the road at Alabama when you're on your own side of the field, that's got to be a little bit better. Stuff like that. So I would say it's a little bit of all the above. Let's go to Hunter. Hunter says, please explain to me the kickoff where D. Williams puts his hands to the side and they call it down to the spot. Okay, yeah, we talked about that earlier. That's the spot. We played the clip in the first half. It was Jeremiah Thielander on the front line that was essentially pointing at the football for a minute. He was obviously not calling a fair catch, but we heard the audio from Heupel. He says letter of the law. Technically, that's correct. It's just frustrating. I don't know how you see that. And let's go to Eric. Eric says, Twitter Tuesday, we'll end on this one. Although it doesn't matter, I noticed Cam Seldon absolutely trucked an Alabama player on that kickoff on Saturday. Do you know or do you think they would ever use him in short yardage situations with the obvious struggles? They need to try something, man. I mean, that's honestly not, by the way, strong name, Eric, strong name. That's obviously not the worst issue in the world or worst thing to think about. I mean, my go-to would be, oh no, he's a freshman. He hasn't had a role in offense all year, just not this year. And I still think that. But, I mean, Tennessee is so bad on fourth downs. Tennessee is 1 of 6 on the year on 4th and 2 or shorter. Okay? Obviously, just running up the middle is just not working. I think you got to be more creative in your play calls. Maybe that's what they were trying to do with that first one. It looked like they were trying to set up the Utah pass, but something went wrong. Maybe Cam Seldon, a bigger, more physical back. I don't know. I mean, maybe. They need to try something. I would be open to it. I would be open to anything. I would really be open to anything. If you go to Cam Seldon and say, hey, man, I know you're learning the offense. I know you're still trying to adjust to the speed of the game and everything, yada, yada, yada. But this is the one thing I want you to focus on for the next, 6 weeks or whatever, how many games are left. The one thing I want you to focus on is getting the football and putting your head down, not to get hurt, but putting your shoulders down. Good pad level. There you go. Getting good pad level and going to get that first down on 3rd and 4th and short. I'd be for it. I'm not saying that'll happen. I don't think that'll happen. But, Eric, I mean, might as well try something, right? Because what you're doing now is not working. That's going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols, Twitter Tuesday, X Tuesday. Thanks to you guys. Shout out everydayers. Couldn't do it without you. Again, we'll have Josh Ward Wednesday. We'll go to the stats that matter from Pro Football Focus. All that and more. That is coming up on a Wednesday show. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll be back at it tomorrow.